Hello everyone, my name is Alex and this is Zombie Side Up, where whatever pops into my tiny cranium is carved into what I hope to be a mediocre at best work of art. This is my first video, so I figured, hey, what better way to show off my skill than to show my oldest sculptures to date. Anyways, enough of my rambling. It's time to scare you with the malformation smorgasbord that is my collection of sculptures. Oh, and one last thing. There is a part 2. I saved the best sculptures for last, so don't give up on me yet. Or do. It's your life after all. Start off, we have Fortnite's Black Knight from sometime in 2018. This sculpture must have taken some time, as I somehow did not remember to add eyes. But to think this started it all. Where did it all go wrong? Anyways, the basic anatomy is off, and I clearly could have done better. But it was my first sculpture, and like a flower that starts as a small seed, I was a seed. The second sculpture is Drift. Now, while there are a lot of things that are not perfect when compared to the skin from Fortnite, it is still resemblant. And considering it was my second sculpture, I would say it is not that bad. I enjoyed making it, and it led me to make many more skins from Fortnite. Now for specifics, it is leaning forward, like the Black Knight. Its coat is way too thick, and the hands are not looking too hot. But there are pluses, as the paint job is close to the actual skin, and the mask actually has eyes when compared to the Black Knight. But with that, it is time for the next sculpture. Next up, we have Tomato Head from Fortnite. As you could probably tell from the way I have structured the video so far, this is my third sculpture, and it's a doozy. I guess I was too lazy to make a stand, so instead I have added in a hand in post-production to add the illusion of it standing up. All jokes aside, I think the head turned out okay, and it looks like the rest of the body was just smushed together. I think once I got the head looking good, I assumed I did not need to spend time on the body. I should have though, as every limb on there is as skinny as a chopstick. The next sculpture is Leviathan, which is a small step up from the other sculptures. The reason for this is I was able to include another medium besides clay, which is plastic capsule that probably had 3-day-old gum inside medium. This definitely reminds me of a bootleg Leviathan, as the fish tank is not even spherical like it is in the game. However, this was the first time I experimented with using other mediums in clay, and I am glad I did, as I now have used many other materials in following sculptures. I think it's time to speedrun the last Fortnite skins, so get ready for a blazing list of alright sculptures. There's Ragnarok, whose mask looks good, while the beard looks like it was dried into clumps from Ragnarok's snot. Then there's Flytrap, who for some reason came from the ceiling and broke a piece of itself. Like the Black Knight, it too does not have eyes, but the color scheme is definitely an improvement from past skins. Then there's Night Knight, who was starting to look so good that I decided, hey, why add eyes when I could instead not add eyes? Then we have... Wait, why are we so far away? Zoom in, editor Alex. Too close. There you go. This handsome man is an unpainted attempt at making a llama from, you guessed it, Fortnite. I think it had potential if, I don't know, I painted it? What's the deal with little Alex not painting sculptures? However, that is the end of my Fortnite era. If you have stayed this long, the sculptures will only get better from here. In an attempt to rebuild the little scrap of hope you had for me, here's another group of, that's right, unpainted sculptures. I think I started to make certain things and then got too busy and decided they looked good enough without paint. And if you're wondering, these are a Stronghold chest and a Castaway's chest from the game Sea of Thieves. I used to play it while I was younger, and I guess I decided to sculpt some of the chests from the game. Oh shit, that gave me a spook. What is that ugly thing taking up my screen? Huh, did I do it? Did I guess your reaction? This right here is my sorry attempt at making a Will McDaniel-esque sculpture. I had the idea for a dinosaur-themed skit, and so I made what looks to be a Triceratops that is just not doing too hot. One important part of the Zombie Side Up learning to sculpt timeline is that this was another time where I used something other than clay and paint to make a sculpture. As you can see, I used clear nail polish on the eyes to give them that realistic meaty shimmer. Next up, there are 2 mushrooms on the plate. Okay, I guess at some point I decided to make 2 mushrooms and give them a pretty basic color scheme. There's not much to say about them, they're just mushrooms after all. On to the next sculpture. Oh, another unpainted sculpture. I spent that much time adding detail and yet I could not paint the darn thing. Oh well. This here is a Thanator from the movie Avatar. I enjoyed this movie a lot when I was younger, and I liked watching the second one when it came out. So I guess at some point I decided to put my iffy at best skills to the test and try and sculpt a Thanator. I think what messed me up the most was the armature, as I remember having to cover the back with those plants to hide part of the armature. Next is, oh for crying out loud, enough of the laziness, younger Alex. Why could you not paint your hard work and make it look colorful? Now I have to talk about a blank, boring sculpture. While this is not painted, I did make a lot of improvements in different areas. I am proud of what I did with the pants folds and other parts of the clothes as well. An interesting fact is that I made this around the time I started watching Ace of Clay. I loved how realistic but cartoony his sculptures were, and I wanted to replicate that here. This one, but I swear, this is the last one that is lacking in the acrylics department. This is the Drask from, I'll give you a second to guess, Dauntless. I played Dauntless for a couple months, but I never really understood the point. The game mechanics and attack damage and healing were all wonky in my opinion, but I loved the designs that they had for the behemoths. So I decided to make my biggest sculpture up to that point and sculpt Drask. I made sure to spend time on the proportions on the face, and while it is not as scaly as I would like, the proportions do look proportionate to the real thing. Yeah, most of these sculptures are jacked full of dust, and it is causing me to sneeze whenever I walk into my studio. Oh well, I'll just blame it on allergies and hopefully the dust will settle soon. But in any case, this is, props to you if you guessed it, another sculpture based off Dauntless. This is the Koshai from Dauntless, and it was one of the few behemoths I enjoyed fighting. I tried my best to capture all the feathers and spikes, and I like how this one turned out. Now that we are done with Dauntless, why don't you go down into the comments and let me know if there is another behemoth you would want me to sculpt. And trust me, it will look way better than anything you have seen so far. Next up, we have one of my top 5 favorite sculptures. This is a scene from the YouTube creator Meat Canyon and his show Monster Lab. I loved that series a lot, as I feel like there is a lot of creativity in every episode. I loved episode 2 so much that I decided to make a scene from it. This is, if you don't know, the Tooth Fairy ripping out the teeth of the main character Cats, while Uno stares blankly into its eyes. I think the proportions are great, the paint job is great, and I even included clear cake pop sticks to make the Tooth Fairy float. As we near the end, this next sculpture is one some of you might have guessed to be Rainbow Six Siege's Thatcher. When I decided to sculpt a R6 character, I got a lot of inspiration from the channel Clayclaim, as I loved his interpretations of the R6 game. Now while I was able to capture a lot of detail, this sculpture is somehow leaning very noticeably to the right. His right, our left. I wish that I would have seen this while making it, but I did not. So maybe someday I will make a Redemption R6 character. I can say with about 34.5% assurance that about 95% of you will not know who this is. For the other 5% that do, hats off to you. This is PJ from a VR game called Population 1. In this game, you drop in a battle royale and fight to be the last. This is the starting character, but he is holding one of my favorite weapons, the sniper. On the sniper, I painted it as a popular skin, and even glued on a printout from the actual game. To be honest though, I feel like this sculpture lacks emotion. It is just standing there like the scarecrow guarding my great aunt's beet garden. I don't like that scarecrow. And to end this video off, we have this beefy boy. This is my first large sculpture that I have made, and I love how it turned out. The muscles on the legs look great, and they were highlighted with a pretty novice technique. One noticeable trait is that I have not finished painting it. I promise. I will definitely considering painting the rest of the sculpture. Now, as you watch me struggle to give you a 360-degree view, I will point out a couple things. The wings are made from leftover metal window screen that I stole from my neighbor. And the interior is made from a strong metal wire armature and a lot of tinfoil. I love that this sculpture turned out to be very realistic, and it inspired me to continue making abominations that this world should never have seen. So, as I clean up my set, I want to thank all of you for watching the video. I tried to make it as entertaining as I could with what I had. If you think you would like to subscribe to a channel that will create never-before-seen atrocities that should never have been seen on this earth, then feel free to head on down there after I am done rambling and do a quick press of the subscribe button. My plan is to release my last collection video, and then start making beautifully ugly sculptures for your eyes to feast on. But with that, enjoy your day, or don't. I am not your father.